Hey everybody! This week we're learning about contour line drawing. We're going to be focusing on Andy Warhol's contour line drawings for inspiration. Andy Warhol is best known for his screen prints of Marilyn Monroe. He's also best known for his Campbell's soup can. Here's a photo of him at the grocery store shopping for inspiration. He started out drawing what he observed every day, using only line to show form and volume. By only using contour line to create his drawings, Andy Warhol was able to develop his own personal style. You might be thinking, what is contour line and what do you mean when you say contour drawing? Well, I'm glad you asked. Contour lines are lines that surround and define the edges of a subject, giving it shape and volume. These should not be confused with the outlines. Outline is drawing a line around the periphery of a two-dimensional shape. Contour is creating the effect of a third dimension, making it a form. Now, a contour drawing is a drawing in which contour lines are used to present subject matter. A contour drawing has a three-dimensional quality, indicating the thickness as well as height and the width of forms it describes. Overall, you want your contour drawings to look three-dimensional. In starting our contour drawings, we're going to do 3 different exercises. First, we're going to do something called blind contour. Essentially, we're going to draw what we see without looking at the paper. Now, in order to do this, if you're right-handed, you should set it up so that the blind contour is on the right side of your page. Draw a line down the middle, but stop halfway and draw a line across. This divides it into 3 sections so that you can make your blind contour drawing on the top right, or if you're left-handed, on the top left. Now I'm going to put a notebook down so that I can't see the page. You can always put a book or something else on top of your hand, but that might make it a little bit difficult to draw. But it is essential that you set up a barrier for yourself so that you cannot see the paper when you start to draw. Now, we are drawing our hands, so you have to make sure that you have enough room to see your hand, but you cannot see the paper. Before starting your drawing, you have to think about how you want to hold your hand. With bent fingers, it creates more of a challenge. So if you've never done this before, I would recommend straightening those fingers out. It's up to you. You get to decide how challenging you want this drawing to be for yourself. Before you even start drawing your blind contour, what I want you to do is notice all of the little lines and cracks that are already in the skin of the palm of your hand and in your fingers. You might notice that there are big major lines that fold when you make a fist, or you might notice the folds and the cracks and the lines that are in your fingers when you bend your fingers. What we're going to do is we're going to take an eraser or a pencil, and we're going to trace all of those lines as well as the outline of our hand to just practice drawing our hands. Now, I urge you to use the eraser of your pencil or the end of your pen that doesn't draw if you're using a pen. So I'm going to trace around the big lines first, and then I'm going to go around the edge of the palm of my hand into the fold of my thumb. I'm going to trace that back around on the same line, which is completely and totally allowed. And I'm going to look at the edge of my hand where it meets the wrist. I'm going to follow that up to the side of my hand. I'm going to make sure I have the very bottom edge of my hand so that I can bring it back up to where my knuckles are. So right here is where I notice there's a little bit of a ball, and I'm going to trace around that so I can understand the shape. I'm then going to go around the edges of my fingers. I'm going to meet that back down, and I'm going to start again with the second finger. As I'm going up and around my finger, I'm also making sure to go into the creases so that I can understand the shapes of these creases where my fingers bend. This might seem like it's unimportant, but it helps so much in your understanding of the shape of an object that you're going to draw. So now that I've traced around my hand with my eraser, what I'm going to do is start my blind contour. Now, I am not looking at this paper, but you are. Once I've had my hand positioned, I'm ready to start drawing. I'm going to start at the tip of my thumb, and without looking at my paper, I'm tracing around the shape that I see. So this is like the tip plus the outer edge of my thumb. I'm following the crease that goes into the palm of my hand, and then I'm following the lines that I see in the palm of my hand. Now I'm up to my pointer finger, where I find the outline edge by creating the smaller sections of the finger by following the lines made by the creases in my finger. So, by following the lines that create larger shapes, I can guesstimate just about where everything is placed. I mean, I'm not looking at this drawing, so I have no idea that it looks like the beautiful masterpiece that it looks like. In my mind, I don't really care. I don't know if this is right or wrong or whatever, but we know that in art there is no right and wrong. There is just learning. So here is my finished, beautiful blind contour drawing. I know it's amazing, but I mean, I can learn exactly what I need to work on. I forgot to connect my thumb to my hand. And I also severely underestimated the size of that main line in my palm, so that the thumb isn't even connected to the bottom of my palm, which is connected to my wrist. So overall, I learned a lot about how I look at things when I draw and what I might or might not miss out on. So I'm going to take the skills that I just practiced in this exercise, and I'm going to bring it over to the continuous line drawing exercise. Continuous line drawing is very similar to blind contour drawing, but you can look at the paper now. You can see what you're drawing. The only thing is, you cannot pick up your pen or your pencil from the paper. You have to keep it on the paper at all times. You can set up however you'd like. You can keep your fingers bent for more of a challenge or keep them straight. I like to keep them a little bit bent. I like a challenge. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at my thumbnail, just like I did the last time, and I'm going to bring down the edge. Now, you might notice that I might trace over some of the lines I've already drawn. And that just kind of helps me come back to my observation. It kind of helps me to find the place where I want to draw next. Now moving across with the main line in my palm, I'm going to connect the thumb like I forgot to with my blind contour, and I'm going to draw the bottom portion. I realize you can't see the hand that I'm drawing, and that's a technical error on my part, so I'm sorry. But I'd like you to pay attention to how slowly and carefully I'm drawing. I'm being very cautious. I'm not picking my pencil up from the paper at all. And what I'm doing is I'm drawing the lines that I see, and I'm drawing over them too, if I need to get back to a certain spot. Just like my blind contour drawing, I'm using the sections of my fingers to tell me where the outlines will be. I'm using each crease to tell me how round, thick, and tall my fingers are going to be. And then I'm going to use the shapes that are in the pads of my palm to tell me where the fingers are going to start. Now, since our fingers are cylinders, you might want to draw some spirals around them just to get a better idea of the form within your hands. That's completely allowed in continuous line drawing because these lines are telling us the form, not the flat shape. The tips of your fingers can be quite tricky if your fingers are bent. What I like to do is draw circles to represent the very tip of the finger. Since my fingers overlap, it can be a little bit tricky to find the right angle and the right folds. But I'm trusting the lines that I see, and I'm just drawing what I see, without worrying if it looks beautiful or not. I only care if it looks proportionate. Now, I finished drawing this hand, and I can tell by drawing these lines, I created the rounded edges. Now, since this drawing was made with one continuous line, I noticed some errors that I made, like making my wrist a little bit too thin. And that's fine, because this was just an exercise for learning how to draw the real thing. So now that we've done exercises in blind contour drawing and continuous line drawing, what we're going to do now is draw a sketch drawing of our hand using our knowledge of line. So because this sketch drawing takes a little bit longer than a blind contour and a continuous line, I sped up through my process. I like to start with the bottom left of my hand by my thumb because to me that's the most easily recognizable curved edge that I know how to draw. So what I do is I start with the thumbnail and then I kind of outline around that and follow all of the lines that are in my thumb. From there, I can take where my palm and my thumb meet and I can draw the lines that I most easily recognize to create the palm of my hand. Now, sometimes I don't exactly pay attention to proportion and I start to draw things a little bit too big, but that's fine. All you have to do is erase and start over. This is art. It's not a big deal to erase because it's all part of editing. You can think of drawing to be very similar to writing an essay or writing in general. You always start out with the first draft and you can picture the sketch as being the first draft. Once you're done with that, you go in and you edit it. Now I'm drawing this hand very similarly to how I drew my continuous line, but this time I can pick my pencil up. I let the creases in my fingers dictate where the outline of the fingers will go. Now if your fingers bend, you might notice that the lines are not parallel, but instead they might point up towards each other. That creates a foreshortening. And all that means is that it looks shorter when it's pointing towards you. If your finger were straight, maybe the lines might look more parallel, but my finger is pointing up towards me and it's bent. So the lines are going to be a little bit different. I'm applying the same rule to all my fingers. If they're straight, I'm going to assume that the lines are more so parallel. If they're curved and pointed towards me, I'm going to assume that they look shorter than they actually are, because they do, and I'm going to make my lines pinch towards each other the closer the edge is to me. I'm focusing on each section of my finger. By doing that, I am ensuring that my fingers are proportionate, meaning that each size is in proper relationship to each other. I'm ensuring that they are solid, they look 3D, and they don't look like a flat two-dimensional shape. This sketch looks like it's almost fleshed out, meaning that I have all of my basic blocked shapes in. Remember when I compared drawing to writing and I said that it's essential to edit? Well, this is what I mean. Once you have everything blocked in, you can go in and erase the parts that you don't like or erase the parts that you don't really think are essential to the main drawing. Maybe all of the loose, sketchy lines, or anything that's not smooth or doesn't work with it. What I do then is I correct any lines or shapes that I think may need editing. For instance, I think this pointer finger might look a little bit too thick for how it looked in real life. So I'm just changing that a little bit. So now we're going to start shading in our hand wherever we see shadows. Our hands are three-dimensional objects with lots of round parts. You might remember from last week's assignments of drawing a still life, but drawing something round like a sphere or an orange or a hand, the light, if it's shining right towards the middle, is going to be in the middle. So that means all of the shadows are going to be around the edges. The darkest part will be around the edge, and then it will get lighter as it meets the middle. So what I'm doing now, I'm looking at my hand. I'm looking at the palm of my hand specifically, and I'm shading in all of the shadows that I see. Our hand goes in towards the middle, and it has lots of round parts that might come back up. Now, whatever is jutting out will get more light. That means all of the rounder parts that go in will be darker. But mainly, I'm using all of the skills that I practiced with blind contour drawing and continuous line drawing to use my observation skills and to draw exactly what I see. Wherever I see shadow, I'm shading that area. You might notice that there are more shadows as it gets closer to your fingers. That's understandable because there are lots of more creases and folds as it gets towards your fingers, especially if you've been washing your hands a lot. Your skin's probably dry and a little bit cracked. Your fingers are going to be where the darkest shadows will most likely be because there's not a lot of light hitting the spaces between your fingers. So remember the round objects from our still lives. The darkest shadows are around the edges, and it gradually gets lighter towards the middle. And it's a very soft and gradual shade from dark to light values. Again, the most important thing is that you are looking at your hand, you are noticing where the shadows are, and you are immediately shading that area with your pencil. Be sure to pay attention to every detail in that hand. We're not making this a super hyper realistic drawing because it's just a sketch. We're just learning how to draw our hands. As we finish this last exercise, I want you to take a second to remember how it felt when you started these exercises and think about how much you learned as you did all three. In looking at all three of these exercises, you can definitely see how much you've grown from when you just started. True, the first one you couldn't actually see the paper, but you can definitely see how your coordination has improved throughout these three exercises. I want to see first your blind contour drawing, I want to see your continuous line drawing, and third, I want to see your sketch drawing. The sketch drawing must have shadows, and it must show evidence of editing the drawing. Remember, as with anything else, to treat yourself with kindness as you go through these exercises. You are just starting out and you are just learning. This will be really great for improving your observation skills and your coordination skills. I know you're going to do a great job, and I can't wait to see what you make. I hope you have fun, and I hope you love it. See you later.